One of the most common places that people get tight is the outside of the hip here, when we're compensating a lot in our walking patterns and in our movement patterns when we do our sports. So this is the best way that I've found to release that and start to build mobility in the outside of the hip and down the IT band. And it's a pigeon stretch that we get from yoga, but we start to add load to it and we start to use the nasal inhale to govern our safety and open up range of motion. But we're going to use a bench for this. Now, if you've got good mobility, you will be able to get the leg onto a bench like this. We're elevating the floor to make it so that we can use this for reps. So if we've got good mobility in the hip, you can get to here, but you're going to feel that stretch across the outside of the hip, and we're wanting the hips to be as square as possible. But if they're tight, really getting the hip to open up externally into that position is very, very difficult for a lot of people, especially if you sit a lot for work as well. So what we're going to do is use the bench, put it on an incline to elevate that and take the angle of the hip to a lower degree so that we can start to work on it. So what I'll need to do with this bench is just put it on an incline. So we can weight this as well. I'm going to put my foot into the crease on the bench so that I've got something to push against. Now it's much easier for me to target the stretch in the hip. Some people might get it in the adductor here as well. And now I can start to do reps in this position to start to open up the hip. So either a pec stick or no weight at all if we're doing this without and it's too intense. What we're going to do is go big chest, and then I'm just sinking slightly into the back leg. I'm going to go big chest, nasal inhale down, and then I push into the bench to get a more intense stretch and start to work what's called the glute med, this glute muscle on the outside that gets really tight, and down the IT band. We're going to get that stretch in the adductor, like I said as well, but we're going to go nasal inhale in, push out. Now that's a bit easier for me on that side. So because of that, I can just take the incline down a little and I can start to add load. So a pec stick is absolutely perfect for this. And then I start to get more of an intense stretch and feeling in the outside of the hip. This is also a really good one for if you start to get sciatic pain, because there's a little muscle here in the glute called the piriformis that people talk about all the time and they go nuts on it. It's just causes a problem because if it's overworked, it traps the sciatic nerve underneath. So this starts to release that tension and the tightness in that piriformis muscle, which can start to relieve sciatica as well. Just a side note. But we can also do this with a kettlebell. So if we hold this in the front rack here and hold the bell, I can now start to do the same thing. Chest up and push. And as the reps go on, this starts to release more and more tension. And this is one of those things we're going to do as an opener, whereby if we do one set every time we train and we start to do this at home, on the bed, on your stairs, on a bench, on a chair, you can start to release this. It's an everyday type of movement that over time, as you start to work the hip in that position, the body then interprets that it's a safe place for you to be. But you've got to tread carefully and not push it too far to the point of pain. So the approach for this is to do the hardest variation that we can do without causing pain in the hip. And when the body and the nervous system realize that it's a safe movement and a safe position for you to be in, it's going to open up the range of motion gradually over time. And over months, yes, we're probably looking at months for this, over months, the range of motion is going to get bigger and the hips are going to feel safer, and everything starts to open up and release that tension that gets stored in there.